We've received quite a bit of interest in my free to be workshop, so to that effect, beneath this video is a link that will give you a description for the workshop, and we've also included a special discount. So if that's something you would be interested in, I would invite you to click that link, and I hope that you would find the course to be quite beneficial. Easily, one of the biggest byproducts of you being in contact with strongly narcissistic individuals is these individuals can so establish the mood of the atmosphere that you wind up playing off of them in a very heavy way, and you find yourself being less than the person that you want to be. It's going to be very important for us to understand narcissists are wounded individuals. They've been struggling literally for decades, going all the way back into their formative years where they just didn't figure out life very well. But and I know many of you have had the same kind of situation, but healthy individuals can look inside and they can think, okay, there's some wounds in here and I need to tend to them. And so you do, and you grow. Narcissists not only do not tend to their own wounds, but they keep bringing up patterns and ways of engaging with others that feed their own woundedness. It's like they have an infection and they don't do anything about that psychological infection, if we can look at it that way. And then what they do is they do all the blame shifting. They want you to think you are the problem, and if you could just act right, then they would quit being so psychologically wounded and infected, when in fact, no, they have their own patterns that they just simply cannot and will not admit to. The interesting thing is they could adjust if they would just take the time to apply some insight, but narcissists are not known for having great insights. In fact, to the point where their woundedness actually becomes part of their own definition of who they are. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk with you about 8 different ways that narcissists perpetuate their own woundedness, and they perpetuate that infectious psychological damage that they have, and then they bring that infection, if you will, onto you. Now, the first of the ways that they will perpetuate their own woundedness is narcissists tend to create what we might refer to as fickle alliances. They want to align with you, but when they do, the reason I say they're fickle, they don't align in a way that's healthy. They simply use people. To you, to them, you are a transaction. And so you're only as good as your latest transaction is toward them. And as a result, this means that they're going to have a lot of moodiness, because you can't possibly live up to their requirements and duties. They're not going to be steady. They're not going to be reliable, because they're constantly wondering, well, what are you going to do to maintain the alliance? And if you don't, then I'm just going to have to go on to the next person. They're very shaky in the way that they engage with individuals and establish connections. A second thing that's part of their own perpetuating of their own woundedness is they're not who they say they are. I recall so well that this one guy summarized his situation like this. He was talking about his own brother, and they were deep in their adult years, and he was talking about how they lived in different cities, and whenever he would visit his brother, he would just think, there's always an extra layer that he's got going on, and I know he keeps his own secrets. And his description was, he's like a stranger that's familiar to me. And I thought, well, that's a really good way to put it, actually. They're not who they say they are. They try to present themselves as one way, but behind the scenes, what you have is a whole lot of phoniness. They're constantly posturing, and in doing so, it perpetuates the woundedness in the sense that you can't be satisfied when you live that way. Now, a third way that they perpetuate their own woundedness is that they're devoid of peace. Contentment is constantly fleeting, and the reason that we say this is an extension of what I've already mentioned. They're constantly on the hunt for narcissistic supply. And by that I mean they want people to adore them and admire them and tell them they're okay, and they want to be the best. And as a result, enough is never enough. They can never just sit back and say, okay, I've got some flaws, I have some imperfections, but in the overall sense, things are okay. I'm at peace, I'm good. It's like, nope, what else are you going to do to make me feel happy right now? And as a result, they cannot find peace from the inside out. Now, there's a fourth pattern that they find themselves into, and that is they're imprisoned by their own negativity. Now, I just want to ask you a simple question. Do you ever hear narcissists complain or gripe or criticize? And basically, that's their common mode of interaction with others. They can't see the goodness that's in front of them because they're so busy looking at what they don't like. That's part of their attitude of entitlement. That's part of their need to be in control. They have an agenda, and as long as the agenda is what they say it is, then they're okay. But of course, people aren't going to live up to their specifications, which means they're constantly unhappy, as evidenced by their negativity. Now, that takes us to a fifth evidence of their chronic woundedness, and that is their anger is ongoing. It's not resolvable. I mean, when you think about it, in the anger of the narcissist, they're constantly putting heavy pressure onto other individuals to conform to their needs. And the primary tools that they use in their anger are things like insults and absurd pressure that they put onto you. They can use shame. They can use a lot of invalidation. And then you think, and I wonder why the anger never is resolved well. You don't motivate individuals well at all by going into that kind of space, but they just can't think about that. And as a result, the anger continues. It's perpetual. And you know, there's just kind of this chronic undertow that they carry with them. Now, having said that, a sixth way that they perpetuate their own hurt and damage is that they cannot and will not trust. A long time ago, they decided that that the world is not a trustworthy place, and as a result, they bring their negativity and they think, yeah, you're going to be the next person. As opposed to trying to be the kind of individual that says, well, I want to be a trustworthy person, and I want to see if I can find and bring responsibility and reliability, and hopefully I can find other individuals in doing so that can match pitch with that. That's how you build trust, and it involves creating an atmosphere of empathy. They cannot go into that space whatsoever. So, as a result, they hide their feelings. They're highly defensive, and they're constantly wondering, what are you going to do to make my life miserable next? A seventh way that they perpetuate their own negativity is that their confidence, if you want to call it that, is built upon destroying other individuals. Now, dominance and power and, being the winner is so important to these individuals. And of course, then we can say, okay, you're the winner. You're the winner of what? The dirty tricks game, I guess. But when narcissists come across as very certain and very sure, that's not confidence. It's their way of trying to create a false front. And as a result, they don't get beyond some of that inner insecurity that they so desperately don't want you to know about. And then an eighth way that they perpetuate their own woundedness is they're seduced by vanity. They build their happiness on many different false foundations. By that I mean, I've got to know the right people, or I have to have material gain, or I want to have the appearance of being intelligent, or the appearance of being the person that knows it all. When in fact, no, it's just your own vanity, and vanity is not where you're going to get your sense of well-being. So we go back to this notion that these are wounded individuals. They're infected psychologically, and as a result, they carry their own psychological infections with them, and then they place them onto you. I mean, this is kind of a crude way of putting it, but it's kind of like if you're in the presence of someone who's got a really bad head cold, a little bit like I do right now, and they just keep sneezing in your face. That's what narcissists do psychologically, if you will. They're going to point the finger of accusation at you, and they'll say, well, if I have any problem, it's because you have brought your diseased self to me, And I guess we can say that another thing that keeps them in their negativity is they have real twisted reasoning and they have real twisted logic. They don't have good insight. So, knowing that you're dealing with someone who's wounded, they're infected with psychological disease, if you will, how are you going to respond? Well, first and foremost, stay as far away from them as you can. Kind of like that person that's sneezing in your face. I don't need to be there so that you're going to sneeze in my face psychologically over and over. I don't need to be exposed to that. Second, if you must be in contact, make sure that you have your own personal cleaning agents, if you will. And by that, I mean your boundaries, your stipulations, consequences, and know that you stand for something. And if they don't like it, well, that's part of their disease. But I'm going to go ahead and hold on to what I know is clean and right, and I'm going to apply my boundaries. And then third, you want to focus on your own psychological nutrition. And by that, I mean, invest in love, invest in goodness, invest in helpfulness and kindness. That's what we talk about here on Team Healthy. And in doing so, it's your way of saying, I want to be a person who's clean from the inside out. And if that narcissist is wounded and then they perpetuate their own woundedness, and as a result, they try to infect me with that, the bottom line is, I'm going to practice good psychological hygiene, and I do not want to be infected with whatever they're bringing to the table. Now, I hope this gives you some good awareness of what you're dealing with. You know that I've been bringing these videos for a good while now. If you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do so, and we're going to keep more coming towards you. My goal is to help you with good psychological insights, and so I'm so pleased that you allow me to be on your team with you. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, you know, I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. And the reason is that when you watch these videos and you know that there's some things that you have in your life that could be difficult and you think I need somebody that I can talk this out with, then this will be an excellent resource. We have a link below that will take you to their website. There are plenty of licensed professional therapists there that you could choose from. Please get the help that you would need so that you can move on with your good psychological hygiene. Also, I have my courses, and these are very extensive. It's like signing up for an online class. Each course has at least 25 videos with written documentation and guided question. I put a lot of work into them, and it would require work from you, but it can be very beneficial. We have Ready, Set, Connect about making good connections. Free to Be about finding yourself despite those controllers. This is me about establishing those healthy boundaries I just mentioned. We also have my webinars that I presented, and they're on all of this is on our website along with our podcast. You can get that through the website as well. And my books, lots of articles, plenty of resources. Narcissists are infected psychologically, but they're blame shifters and they want to put all of their infections onto you. And that's why I say don't let them psychologically sneeze in your face. Practice self-care. And in doing so, I hope that it shows that you're committed to your own personal steadiness. And in the end, I'm hoping that that's going to be your way of saying, I'm dedicated to being a person of peace.